All right, and we're back. We're back with another episode of the Bet, the Casual. We got UFC 258 coming up next weekend, so that's what we're going to be previewing today. Coming up this weekend, we have UFC Vegas 18 tomorrow. Tune in for that one. Sunday's obviously the Super Bowl. I'm sure everyone's going to be watching that one. We know the weekend's highlighting that one.
Our boys got up betting.
My Broncos gear is on. Is obviously it's sad times for my Broncos, but can relish in this victory, 5 years ago. So that's a great one. But yeah, we got some exciting stuff coming up. It's minus 40 for me outside, just a whiteout. So I'm looking forward to staying in and watching all these beautiful sports. What do you got for me, Siraj?
Yeah, it's just so funny, right? Because this guy popped on. He's always in black, right? I'm always kind of wearing colors, and here I popped on my side, and it's just really funny, right? Because he's wearing a Denver jersey. I'm wearing an Oakland jersey with a Wu-Tang shirt. I mean, you would think if I open my window right now, you're just going to see like bright palm trees and sun. It's not on. My feet are freezing cold. And so all I'm really doing is just getting a hype to record another the Casual with my man, Paisan.
Beauty. Let's jump right into it. If you guys haven't done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button. Our information's all below, Instagram, Twitter. We got some exciting stuff coming up there, so give us a follow. And yeah, without further ado, let's dive right into this card, man. What a way to kick off UFC 258, man. I'm really excited for these high-flying prospects that we got in Gillian Robertson and Miranda Maverick. Obviously, we have a little bit of bias towards them, which we'll dive into as we go. So, Gillian comes in with a 9-5 record. We had the pleasure of interviewing her. Super sweet girl. If you haven't checked out that interview, it's on our YouTube account. She kind of gave us a little bit of insight on what she's working on, who she's working with, training hard with Jose Shorty Torres, Dean Thomas, putting in that work to really become a champ. So we're excited to see what she has in store. She comes in with that 9-5 record. She did lose her last bout to Taylor Santos in December, which she goes in depth in our interview talking about. So again, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. But really looking forward to seeing her back in the ring against Miranda Maverick, not on short notice, full camp, seeing how she can do there. On the flip side, we got Miranda Maverick, who actually highlights our February prospects video in the UFC. She's actually taking that #1 spot, and that tells you how much hype there is around this girl. She's actually no joke. She's 8-2, made her UFC debut back in October. She defeated Liana Jojua in that one. There was a doctor stoppage with a mean cut from the elbows. Rightfully so, a doctor stoppage there.
My eyes started watering already.
Yeah, it was a mean cut for sure. So This one's going to be a great one. Give us a little more information on this one, Siraj.
Yeah, so Pai said it best, right? And I don't want to sound like a broken record. The amount of times I've said this. So we know who Miranda Maverick is, right? She was the girl that came up flying through Invicta, took on Pro Gonzalez, looked amazing, and basically just, decided not to go for an Invicta title shot and jump into the UFC pretty much right away. I've been pretty impressed with everything we've seen, right? Like she showed really good striking against Liana Jojua. The main thing about that cut was it was that elbow, right? That just came flying in right across that nose. And you could even tell like Liana Jojua, who was looking like a pretty good striker and getting some of her own damage in there. The few times that she did land those, she couldn't help but have to touch it herself and be like, oh shit, what's going on? They were very heavy strikes. These are the things that, if you're watching tape and want to keep track of, obviously she's kind of working in these jabs with these body kicks. I felt like the jab itself, even if it's a fake, like, it could be a little crisper and things like that. But, I think she looks phenomenal for how good her grappling looked in previous fights. And the striking really is coming together. She's the real deal. And that's why we put her at #1. The one thing I kind of laugh at, right, is when you go into Gillian Robertson a little bit, like you said, if you haven't checked out the interview, please go check that out. She's a phenomenal fighter. And it's really interesting kind of see what goes into it. But I think she's really underrated, right? At 25 years old, when you really dive into her record, man, it's incredible to see. Not only she's taking every single fight that UFC throws at her, whether it's on short notice or not, but like it's against very, very talented fighters, right? We're talking about Taylor Santos, Maycee, Barber, Mara Silva, and the people that I'm naming are very, very good strikers. And let's be real, Gillian Robertson knows that she is a phenomenal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter with improving striking. So taking these fights, fights. I mean, with also training, like you said, with Jose Shorty Torres and Dean Thomas, like she's really becoming that real deal fighter, right? Because at 25 years old, let's go deeper. This is going to be her 10th UFC fight. So can't be putting her on UFC prospect watches either. But she's 6-3. So at 25, 6-3, we mentioned the 3 losses. The combined record of her 3 loss fighters are 32-3. That is insane to me. So if we're saying that those are her 3 losses, you know what I mean? Like she's definitely choosing to just dive in with the Sharks and go swimming. You know what I mean? So I think that is where you see a lot of those mixed martial arts records from like back in the day where everybody just fought everybody. Like when you see Lyoto Machida's got fights against BJ Penn and you look at their UFC history, like, so what? You know what I mean? Like these are the things that happen. So I just think like that's where you have to give her credit. Go before that, even before the UFC career, one of her 5 losses, as you mentioned, the 9-5 record, is to Cynthia Calvillo, who is also in the UFC, been a ranked fighter. And it's just insane to see how good she is at 25. And not even that, but like by 30, bro, think about who she's going to have fought. It's going to be just an absolute plethora of just massive MMA names, because all of the fighters we're seeing her fight now are getting really good. Taylor Santos looks phenomenal. Maycee Barber is on the main card. So there's a lot of things that are going very well for her, even in her losses. So I just think that at 25 years old, I mean, I think she's a bona fide UFC fighter for the next 10 years. And she has the drive to just keep working. You've heard it. You know, she just keeps working and working and working.
For sure. We know she has that champ mentality. It's what's on her mind. So wouldn't be surprised to see her get there in the next few years for sure. Before we dive into the lines, just want to let you guys know, these lines are going to be a shock to me as well. I have not seen them, and they actually just got released. So it's going to make this game a little more spicy, and it's going to be a lot more fun. So, before we dive right into these lines, anything else you want to touch on?
Man, it's so funny. Just a couple of things. I'm really upset that we lost the Chris Weidman and Uriah Hall fight on this card. That was something I just wanted to quickly throw out there. That would have been a nice little addition to this card, right? Because I think one of these fights could even jump up to the main card. Preferably that first fight on the prelims. But we'll see how it goes. The main event on there would just look so good. But I think that's a fight that we kind of lost out on, especially in the middleweight division, for how these guys have looked in their last 2 fights, coming back the way they have. Sure. I think. It's really sad, right? For me, I did so well on that last card. I don't know if I'm even going to do that well, because I always come back and it's like sophomore slump galore. And the worst part is, you know how much easier mine and Azan's life would be if we got to look at lines earlier? Like, I can't even tell you how much easier our lives would be, because the amount of work that goes into a Saturday for us is insane because of this reason. So without further ado, let's get right into it, my boy.
I got faith, man. You're going to do well here. So let's dive right into that first one. Who do you see as the favorite and by how much here?
I keep telling myself, like, we have to do the Vegas thing, right? If you and I had a side conversation about this event, I'd be curious to see where our line would be. But, the way we got to do it, the game's played by picking the Vegas rules, right? That's the man that wants it. That's the man we put. That's the way we play it. So I just chalk it up to this. I don't think that Miranda Maverick deserves to be anywhere over a -200 favorite. There's just no chance for that. I think that the striking isn't there yet, and the grappling, we know how good Gillian is. So she can't be over -200. I just think that there's going to be enough bias, there's going to be enough hype to not make it a pick'em. So I'm going to have to throw it a -160 final answer.
Come on, man. What is this shit?
How close can it be?
Prefaces it with, I don't know if I'm going to be able to perform, and then wins himself another showcase showdown here. I think you're within the range. What's showcase showdown? You get $100 leeway?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, I think something like
that. Yeah. You're within 3 basis points of the actual line. So bring out the man here. I love seeing this man.
Oh, your boy.
Bring out
him out. Where's my man?
Well done, man. Good start here. Good start. Miranda Maverick comes in at a -163 favorite. Like I said, only 3 basis points off of what Spooky was thinking here. So, great call. Do you have a lean either way on this one?
I do want to ask you if you have just fighters, or do you have, because it's pay-per-view, do you think they've released the prop bets as well?
Nothing yet.
That sucks. Just so keep a note on the unders here. These are two very violent girls. They're gonna go in. They're gonna go in for it. You know what I mean? And they both have the ability to finish. And so I just think that, you know, even if this is a 3-round fight, the way they fight, I just think that there is a very good chance that given the fact that, you know, female fights tend to go the distance, and that seems the way the way the Vegas lines tend to show. I just think that's one that you can kind of keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, kind of reviewing previous lines and stuff, it shows the respect level that Gillian Robertson is getting. As, you know, Miranda Maverick in her last fight was a massive favorite. I believe it was minus 450 or something. So, you know, for her to be getting closer to that pick'em is kudos to Gillian Robertson for sure.
Yeah, because we were talking about that before in the Liana fight. It's just it's kind of crazy to think that that was the massive difference. And going into this one, you just have to give the props where it belongs.
All right, and so, you know, that continues us on with the preliminary card. We got a great prelim card here. I'm pretty excited about some of these fights. So up next, we got a welterweight bout between Gabe Green and Philip Rowe. So, you know, Gabe Green, he comes in with a 9-3 record. He was just rolling coming into the UFC, and he did make his debut last year. He did fall short in that one, losing to Daniel Rodriguez via decision, and that was back in May. So he's going to be looking forward to bouncing back from that one. On the flip side, we got Philip Rowe, or as, you know, I like to refer to him as the Fresh Prince. You know, another dude that we highlighted on our prospect video. So again, if you haven't checked that out, make sure you check that out. He does come in at number 7 on that list. He has a 7-2 record, and he literally had 3 canceled bouts in 2020. So, you know, we're really looking forward to seeing him make his UFC debut. Like we said, he's ranked number 7 on that list, and a win in this one would really shoot him up those rankings for sure.
So funny enough, Pies, it's actually spooky story time. I gave him a little preamble prior to this and told him that, you know, despite him maybe not having too much excitement, despite us covering it on the Prospect Watch, that maybe this is a fight I can maybe get him a little excited about. So, you know, we did go into Rowe a little bit in the 3 canceled fights in 2020. You know, even Paisan had a bit of a take on that. And that's why we did kind of rank him a little low based on the list that was provided us over at MSUck. If you haven't checked that video out, please go check it out. And the write-up over there done by Jeremy Brand, MMAsucker.com. Go check them out as well. He's kind of chinny, right? So let's go back to the Dana White Contender Series first. He was a little chinny in that fight, got rocked in the first round, dropped, but came back nicely, got his feet under him, and really started landing some big blows. The big thing about that was, like, you saw the confidence, right? So when he is able to get his confidence under his feet, I think he's able to kind of dictate his game plan, get things to where he needs it to be. You know what my problem is? The more I dive into him, especially as we look at a guy like Gabriel Green, who I think you're going to love this story. I know you are. So there's a little bit of a moment here coming. It's like a comedian punchline, but in our show type of way. He has a 7-13 combined opponent record. So all the guys that he's fought in those fights, they've combined for a 7-13 record. So when you look at how much, you know, history he really has in MMA, that's actually kind of a big red flag, if you ask me. And he did his, UFC fight, his Dana White Contender Series fight against Leon Shabazian. So when you look at Leon Shabazian's only career loss prior to that, you know who it was? Gabriel Green.
No way.
Isn't that amazing? So you can't make these things up. So, you know, Gabriel Green, you mentioned his debut against Rodriguez, but Rodriguez is a phenomenal fighter, and Green took that fight on less than a week notice, and his first fight since 2018. So I feel like that was a lot of him just, you know what, let me just get in there, get my feet wet, see what happens, and here we go. But prior to that, he was a CXC catchweight champion at 160, before 2018. So, you know, I feel like when I look at his record, I'm getting more and more convinced of being like, you know, when you do fight, you do take on pretty quality opponents. You've shown that you can really, really compete at a pretty high level. I mean, I didn't like the speed of the way he attacks even in early rounds. I felt like by the second round, even in his wins, I mean, his opponents kind of falter pretty quickly, but he did look a little gassy, you know what I mean? And I just think that that's something where if we look at the way Rowe looked in rounds 2 and 3, I mean, given how he looked in round 1, I can't help but feel there's something to be said about that. So for me, those are the kind of things that just stand out. But I really do love the fact that, you know, the guy who he made his name against on the Dana White Contender Series turned out to only have 1 loss against the man he's fighting on UFC 258.
This world, man, it really comes full circle at all times, man. It's so crazy to see. So, you know, let's dive right into the lines here. Who do you see as being the favorite here?
Yeah, I got to go with Rowe. I just think that if you look at the way Vegas lines work and you just look at what Green's put together, he's not screaming, pick me, pick me, pick me. So I really do have to feel like Rowe is the favorite. But again, I can't put him very high. I refuse. And this is where you're going to follow up questions and maybe you'll blow my mind. But I'm going to go with Rowe minus 180.
Oh man, you were headed right down the perfect path, man. It was right there. It's actually a pick'em. There is no favorite here. Yeah, okay. Minus 110 on each side, and that's kind of the vibe I was getting from your analysis as well. So,
wow, Pies, I'm loving that. That's
absolutely. And honestly, it's probably a loaded question here, but are you leaning either way? Is this going to be the closest fight probably on the card? But are you leaning either way?
Frankly, I think this is a classic fight of where we might even see a bit more going into the fight. Like, let's remember that this is also a pay-per-view, so the cameras are following people a little bit more. Maybe not the guys who are fighting first or second on the card, but I mean, I do think that there's a bit more attempt at having some coverage. So whether it's the weigh-ins or anything like that, I just think we need to keep our eyes open for what we see leading into this fight. But like, when you look at it on paper, I mean, it really does sound like that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tight one for sure. I can't wait to watch it, and stay tuned. If we do end up taking anything, we'll be sure to post it. All right, and so up next, we got a nice featherweight bout. We got an exciting young prospect in Ricky Simon, or I don't know if you can call him a prospect anymore, but an exciting young fighter in Ricky Simon taking on the vet in Brian Kelleher. So, Simon, he comes in with a 17-3 record, sparkling, man. He's 5-2 in the UFC. This specific fight, it was supposed to take place a few times, but, due to a couple cancellations, we get it at UFC 258. So looking forward to this one. Simon, he's won 2 in a row. He defeated Ray Borg in 2020, and he literally fought 2 weeks ago and beat Gaetano Pirello, like I said, at the end of January. So he's excited. He's ready to get back in the ring. His 2 notable UFC losses do come against Rob Font and Uriah Faber. So credible names as well. On the flip side, we got Brian. Brian has a 22-11 record, 6-4 in the UFC. And he honestly, man, he had quite a busy 2020. He took on 4 fights. So, kudos to him. He did go 3-1 in those fights, defeating Ode Osborne, Hunter Azur, and Ray Rodriguez, who was his most recent one. He won in 40 seconds, I believe. His lone loss came to Cody Stamann, who we'll actually see fight tomorrow on UFC Vegas 18. So, also a very credible loss there. And I'm really looking forward to this one, man. Give us a little bit more on this one.
Yeah, so you kind of hit a little bit on the quality of opponent there, right? So the one time he did face a guy like Cody Stamann, who was going 3 rounds with Jimmie Rivera, who's going to be on the main card as well. Like, these are the kind of guys where you really dictate, are you ready for the ranked type of fighters? I think Brian Kelleher is a great striker. I think he's going to bring what, Simon might need to see a bit more of. I think Simon's grappling continues to look very, very good. When you look at the last fight, I think that was almost like just a feeler fight, right? When you think about who he should have fought and all those kinds of things, like he just looked so dominant. The lines dictated that. You mentioned it best, like Rob Font, like talk about a guy who's come back. Like that's a guy that everyone's going to be watching now. His last fight was a massive win over Marlon Moraes. And I think that's a guy that we really need to keep our eyes on. I think he's going to be absolutely dominant. And Uriah Faber back in 2019, who is definitely, on his way out. So that's more kudos to Uriah Faber for how good he is. But I do think that not worrying about a weight cut, right? Because Ricky Simon was fighting at 135 most of the time, and he gets to fight this fight at 145. I think that has a lot to do with, fighting so recently. Fighters seem to be getting that opportunity to maybe just, jump that 10 pounds. So don't have to worry about that extra cut, come fight day. And so I'm excited about that part of it. I think he needs to try and eliminate the striking battle as much as possible, right? I think that Brian Kelleher is going to be able to really dictate some of that boxing, and his power is very underrated, right? We see him kind of really drop some guys. And in the fight that, he fought, I felt like Stamann is one of the best. The only guy to ever finish Brian Kelleher is John Lineker. And I think John Lineker to this day might be considered the best flyweight in terms of power. His power punching, his highlight reel when it came to just laying guys, that was pretty phenomenal. Guys started figuring him out, and once he got into the higher ranks, it was a different story. But, in the early part, he was just absolutely boom, boom, just flatlining dudes. And so that says a lot about Kelleher, his chin, his durability, because look at the record, right? He's been around the block. So I think this is absolutely one of the most underrated fights. And the fact that it's on the prelim is actually kind of surprising. I think this could even be a pay-per-view fight, if not maybe the fight that leads us into the pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And, that was kind of the hype that Ricky Simon got on the last one, touching on the last one. He did take it within short notice and touching on the line. I believe he closed somewhere at like a minus 500 himself, right? So it shows the dominance that this guy puts forward for sure. So let's dive right into the line here. Who do you see being the favorite and by how much?
Yeah, so like my big issue right now is even when you look at some of the fights that have been taking place, right? All the short notice stuff and all these things, like that's where you have to really dive in if you want to start betting on people, because guess what? The UFC has fights where guys with, 7-3 records are just jumping into fights and guys are getting wins against them. So don't just be looking at people's wins and loss records, because there's definitely some difference to, what it used to be, if you will. But yeah, I do think this is one where you have to give Ricky Simon the edge here. When you look at who he has lost to in comparison, both guys lost to absolute beasts in their careers, but Rob Font, Uriah Faber, like those are elite level men's. And I think that you've seen Ricky Simon come back very strong against guys like Ray Borg and Gaetano Perez. So I have to give Ricky Simon the edge here. And I can't give him much. So maybe that 400 was a big of a issue last time, but I'm going to go with a minus 170.
Okay, so he's actually a little bit outside that realm. He is a little bit more favored than that. It is currently minus 275.
Okay,
on the books here. Yeah,
I can see that. Based on the last fight and the line that was, that lines up fairly well.
A lot of hype on Simone here for sure. So, hey, I'm not sure if you have a lean here or anything like that, but I could see Simone being sprinkled into some parlays for us.
Most definitely, but I also think fights like these, right, guys who are just always going after it, I kind of like the aspect of these unders, right? You got the power puncher versus the guy who just wants to take your back and submit you. And when you think about it, like we said, it's not like we need Simone to knock out, Kelleher, which is the really tough thing to do, if you will. I just think that if both guys have a chance at winning to that level, you really do see the opportunity for both of them having a chance to win, which is something to keep an eye on when you're thinking about overs and unders, because, I think that's something to keep in mind.
For sure. So, as those get released, we'll be taking a look at those. And if there's any lean that we have, we'll be sure to post it for you guys for sure.
If Uriah can do it in 2019, Brian Kelleher can do it in 2021.
2021, man. Crazy.
Right? Crazy. I thought it was crazier that Uriah Faber fought in 2019 for some reason. I don't know why.
All right, and so that takes us right into our next fight. It's a ladies strawweight bout. On one end, we got Polyana Viana here. On the other side, we got Mallory Martin. So, really excited for this one. Polyana, she sports an 11-4 record. She is 2-3 in the UFC. And she had lost 3 in a row heading into 2020. So, that was a nice bounce back win for her against Emily Whitmire there. She did win via armbar in the first round, and that was back in August. So I'm sure she appreciated getting back on track there. Mallory Martin on the flip side, she has a 7-3 record. She did make her UFC debut back in 2019, and she lost via rear naked choke to Verna Jandabora. I believe that's how you say her name. She did bounce back in 2020 with a rear naked choke of her own, submitting Hannah Cyphers there back in August. So both these girls are coming off of a win and look to keep that mojo going. What do you got for us here, man?
Yeah, so this is actually one of those really interesting fights, right? Like you just talked about Vienna's last fight with the nice armbar right there. That's after losing three in a row. She was the Jungle Fight strawweight champion before transitioning to the UFC in 2018. So she did come in with some hype at the time, but again, like you get that vibe that the UFC is, a bit of a different level once you start hitting, top level contenders, the way Gillian Robertson's fighting all the big names, that are coming in. But, this is a really good fight for both fighters, I think. When you look at Mallory Martin, I think that fight against Hannah Cyphers was kind of interesting, right? She had a bit of adversity to face in that first round, right? She got knocked down, ended up coming back real strong in that second. I thought the moment the fight hit the mat for her, it seemed like it was her fight to lose. She was very dominant. She was able to scoot into mount so quickly and just work into some pretty good submission work and got the win, So I think it was nice, even in the post fight, I was listening to a little bit when she was talking to Paul Felder. It was nice to see that she spoke about how, prior to that, she'd gone on a bit of a losing streak and she had to seek out kind of some mental health help for anxiety because she felt like the way she was before fights just didn't seem normal, and she was better than that. And when you look at her record, right, she's a 7-3 fighter. You mentioned the Verna Jandiroba loss. She's also lost to Maycee Barber, who continues to be one of the bigger names, obviously, in MMA that we're going to be able to watch later in this fight, or later in this card. And the other loss is her Invicta debut. So, if that's the biggest female organization on the planet, I mean, even at 7-3, you have to kind of give Mallory Martin a bit of credit here in terms of her record.
Yeah, for sure. And just as a side note, what a dope name for a league, man. The Jungle Fight. Like,
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. Man. I don't know if he heard. I wondered if he just maybe heard. He didn't hear the last couple times, or maybe it was just like, I just need to focus on getting these fight information. So, but now he's like all comfortable and shit, so he's able to like process shit really funny. And I was like, wow, I thought this would be the time, and he nailed it. It's hilarious, right?
Oh, man, honestly, I just get a visual of an octagon like in the middle of a rainforest. Like, oh man, it's so sick. Kudos to whoever named that league. So,
like, Mowgli comes out, Mowgli and Baloo
and Tarzan, all of them.
I knew, yeah. I knew that's where you would go. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, it's too good, man.
It's so sick, yo. So
yeah,
sick.
Yeah, I love it.
Let's dive right into the line here. Who do you see being the favorite in this one?
Side note, if you ever want to watch some Jungle Fight, we can watch some Anderson Silva clips together. So I'm actually gonna have to go with my gut here and hope that Vegas is kind of siding with me, because I felt like my analysis was like so unbiased in a sense of not just like heart attached to fighters, but like, I think based on what you can see on paper, like I think the ground fight's going to be a battle, but like Martin really has shown that she can take on some of the best fighters, and she's not very old. She's kind of in that prime right now, and I got to give her the favorite. I got to give Mallory Martin the favorite. But again, I think these lines are all going to be doopy all over the place till we get to maybe some fights that we know real well. But I like the minus 180 range for Mallory Martin.
Man, this guy, every time he's about to nail one, he prefaces it with the fact that he's not going to nail it. It's so frustrating.
Wow, really? Did I do it?
So, you're only off by 10 basis points on this one. She's a minus 170 favorite. Give him that bell. I'll even give you the showcase showdown on this one, man.
Where's my guy? Yo, guys, say hi to your boy.
That's my man. So, well done. She comes in at a minus 170 favorite. Right in line with what you were thinking here. Any lean for you?
Actually, yeah, I kind of do like Mallory Martin in this fight, man. I do like what I saw from her from an overall, because the thing with her tape, man, is it's just not random fights. You can kind of attest who she's fighting, who have they lost to. You've seen enough tape on that. It's just there's a lot to go into just her 7-3 record, and I just think that if she's starting to really find her footing after everyone talks about it, right? Every single fighter who takes that climb talks about how they feel like they hit that mental block. Once your physical and everything really line up, it's like, well, what's stopping me from going to the next level? And if you're serious about going to the next level, I mean, Corey Sandhagen had talked about it immediately after his loss, right, to Aljamain Sterling. He really did talk about how his major focus really was the mental parts of the game, and frankly, he's looking like such a savage, right? So little things like that, I think. Well, we won't know based on the previous card, but we'll find out when that happens. Come the time to record or put this out. But yeah, at the end of the day, I do really like Mallory Martin in this fight because she's proven enough to merit that.
Yeah, for sure. And the numbers right within the realm to kind of take that. So, yeah, stay tuned. We'll probably lock that one in. And, man, what another cool name, eh? Aljamain Sterling. Fucking love that name.
If you kind of like researched the man a little bit and looked into him, I think you would like him a lot. He's basic. Rowe might have the nickname Fresh Prince, but this guy might actually think, act, and be the Fresh Prince of MMA. We're talking big chain, top, like he's I don't know if you've seen like his hair. His most recent haircut was most definitely a fade top, right?
Can play, eh? No way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's so sick. All right, and so that takes us right into our next bout here. We got a welterweight bout between Diego Lima and Belal Muhammad, whose nickname is Remember the Name. I don't think anyone's ever forgetting Muhammad, so this is going to be a great one as well. Diego, comes in with a 15-7 record. He was on, I believe, Tough Season 25.
Oh, that got me
Quit
good.
laughing at me, man.
No, that got me really good. No, that was a good joke. I was laughing really hard. That was such a good joke. I don't know why. Maybe it's the dad in me.
Most common name in the world.
I know. That's why I was dying. Oh, that's so good.
So yeah, Diego, he was on Tough Season 25, made his UFC debut back in 2018. He lost that debut to Yushin Okamaki, and since then, he's won 3 in a row.
I got Yushin Okami.
What did I say?
Okanaki.
There's a lot of moving parts here, man. A lot of moving parts. So like I said, yeah, Diego's won 3 in a row since. Defeated Chad LaPriest, Court McGee, and most recently Luke Jamo by split decision. He actually didn't fight in 2020, so we're looking forward to seeing him get back in the octagon. Muhammad, on the flip side, he comes in with a 17-3 record. He's made quite the name for himself. But
that's gonna be your favorite nickname forever because your jokes just land.
So he entered the UFC back in 2016. He's got 9-3 in the UFC. So this guy's a beast, man. He won 3 in a row against Curtis Millender, Takashi Saito, and most recently Lehman Good via decision in 2020. His last loss was against Jeff Neal, who we've touched on a few times as well, and that was via decision back in 2019. So what do you see going down between these two guys here?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Because for me, I wanted to talk to you about how this man has literally been on 2 toughs, lost both finals. Like, that's the crazy part. And Jesse Taylor, who he lost the second one to, I was trying my absolute best to find you the video that got him banned from Tough because of the first one that he should have won when he was younger. But there is a video that I will be sending you to just watch this man live. It's pretty hilarious how he lived in that first season. Basically, he got absolutely trashed and did some damage and got kicked out. And he came back for the redemption season, which he beat Diego Lima for as the second season for both these guys. So kind of sucks for him. He lost to Eddie Truck Gordon in the first one, lost to Jesse Taylor the second one. But that's the weird thing about Diego Lima. It's like if you've paid attention to the sport for the last 5-10 years, like you kind of know his name.
You couldn't resist, eh? You couldn't resist.
I couldn't even deal. But there's something about like both these guys that when you look at their losses, they're against absolute beasts, right? The little things that stand out for me, as you mentioned, one was the activity, right? Like Belal Muhammad fights very, very actively. Like he is ready to step in at all times. I might have a funny story for you, but one of his fights, he actually fought during Ramadan and he was fasting for the fight.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yes,
that's insane.
Yes. And so when you look at Diego Lima, like the last 2 fights are against guys like Court McGee and Luke Jumo, which were split decisions. And in the Jumo fight, he actually injured this man pretty badly, but couldn't really pull off the win to the point where it was even a unanimous decision or anything like that. So, even in the Court McGee fight, when we think about, Carlos Condit kind of just did some handiwork against Court McGee as well. So you really have seen his opponents in the last little bit. When you think about Belal Muhammad's record and how he's pulled off some of these wins, like, let's be real. The Lyman Good fight was phenomenal. That was just an absolute barn burner. Talk about heart. Talk about skill. Everything. He took on an absolute beast, an absolute veteran, and came out on top. And I think that was a deserved win. It was very close. But Jeff Neal, last loss in 2019. Prior to that, Vincent Luque. And then Alan Jobé on a short notice UFC debut. Like this is a kid who belongs in the UFC. He will be there for the rest of his career. I think that he will be able to kind of do a real amount of damage. The thing is that I love his boxing, but like let's also see what he does against guys with the range, right? He seems to struggle a little bit with that. Lima's gonna try and be the longer fighter and things like that. But where I do see Belal Muhammad having some success is with the strikes. I do think he's going to be able to land. I do think he's skilled enough with the with the takedown D that it's just going to be an absolute, striking battle. I think this is going to be one where you just see these guys throw, and that's what they want to do.
For sure. Yeah, it's going to be a great one. Let's dive right into the lines here. Who do you see being the favorite in this one?
Yeah, so I have to go with Bilal Muhammad. I mean, I think Diego Lima's the name, but I think that when you think about in his last 5 fights, Jesse Taylor is a name in those last 5 fights. Like that does kind of, from a betting perspective, it's a bit of a red flag, right? Like, let's just say for his last one, BJ Penn and Frankie Edgar were the main event. So I do have to go with I do have to go with Bilal Muhammad. And I'm going to say I actually am going to give him a minus 250. I'm going to give Bilal Muhammad a minus 250.
All right. So, I didn't want to preface this prior to going in, but there's actually no line available for this one. Whether you look at odds sharks,
I took a chance with the minus 250. I was on my edge. You got me back. I can't show my guy, so at least you don't get to see him.
I'm not gonna lie though. I was gonna jump in and maybe place a guess myself, but I was gonna say Muhammad minus 300 as well. So right in line with what you're thinking here. Odds Shark 365. None of these guys actually have a line available for this one, so we're gonna have to stay tuned for this one, see where it ends up, and if we do have a pick for it, we'll let you guys know.
100%.
All right, and so on deck, we got another middleweight bout here. On one end, we got Rodolfo Vieira, another dope name right there, and he's taking on Anthony Hernandez. So, this fight actually got me really excited when diving into it because these guys have such elite grappling skills, man. It's actually fucking insane, man. And so, you look through Rodolfo and it's win via submission, win via submission, win via submission. It's like, this is really elite stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing this, in next Saturday. So, he comes in with a 7-0 record. He made his UFC debut back in March of 2020 where, surprise, surprise, he submitted Safarov from that one with an arm triangle choke. And then, I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to utilize those skills against Hernandez, who's no joke in the submission game either. He comes in with a 7-2 record. He's 1-2 in the UFC. He does have a win against Jun Young Park, but he has losses against Marcus Perez and Kevin Holland most recently, who we've touched on a few times. I do believe Marcus Perez was cut from the UFC yesterday. Is that correct? Yeah. So, the latest fight was against Kevin Holland, actual beast in that one. But, he didn't even last 30 seconds, I believe, in that one. That was some of Kevin Holland's finer work. So I'm curious to see, which grappler here kind of gets the upper hand here. What do you got for us? Okay.
So, what's amazing about this fight, Pies, is that I think that it's the official day where we learn about like those, like the Ronaldo. You remember how people used to talk about Damian Maia and Ronaldo Souza, and like there's like this big difference in like the MMA grapplers, but then these like legendary jiu-jitsu grapplers who come in with these. So that's that's kind of who we're talking about with Rodolfo versus Anthony Hernandez. So like Anthony Hernandez has shown really good wrestling and his ability to kind of incorporate those skills with the submission work, because even in that win against Park, I felt like he was kind of back against the wall literally and was able to pull off a really suave submission. But when we're talking about grappling, jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu, this is who we're talking about. The jiu-jitsu. It's this guy. So he's going to bring, like, he's got records galore, right? He's got enough medals and world titles on his belt. He's trying his luck. I think he's getting the good fights, right? The one thing, Safarov, come on, we should know him, right? The Vellante fight, probably my favorite fight of all time. Where your man gets kicked and he actually like bends down and goes, that's this man. So, that's who he beat in under 3 minutes via choke. And I got to tell you, the one thing I appreciated about that fight was Safarov landed a pretty good body shot. And I think that put Rodolfo a bit on his edge. He actually forced the takedown a bit more. So when you think about that, the guys were kind of feeling each other out, standing up a bit more. Once that body shot landed, I think Rodolfo put his foot on the gas and really, really pushed for that takedown. And You know, I think Safarov showed good takedown defense with the first attempt, but the second attempt was a waching, and he just kind of flew to the ground. And it was kind of like the moment he took the back, party done, bro. He locked that up so quick. It was elite.
Perfect. And yeah, so we'll be able to see if Anthony Hernandez is able to kind of hang with these ground skills for sure.
One thing I wanted to bring up with you, though, it was if you dived a little bit further, did you see his Dana White Contender Series performance? He actually smashed on that one. But
oh, no, I did not see that one.
So it was actually against Jordan Wright. If you remember Jordan Wright, he knocked out Jordan Wright in under a minute. But guess what happened? As my boy Paisan likes to say, he failed his drug test due to a little
smoky
smoke. So,
oh man, fitting that it's a Friday, man.
Yeah. So funny enough, the man just could have had a really nice record showing event on Dana White's Contender Series, but unfortunately, that greenery gets the best of ya.
It's funny. I was scrolling through their records and I did see that no contest, but I did not see what it was for. So, good info right there, 100%.
But that's the best part is you actually mentioned some of the grappling, right? 85% takedown defense. Those are little things like if he can avoid getting taken down, I think he's actually going to try and have a fun fight. So, let's see what happens.
Yeah, where do you see the line landing on this one, man?
I just think Vieira's going to be the favorite here. There's no point. You mentioned such good things, right? Like Hernandez has these weird things about him. LFA, title fight against your boy Brendan Allen, won that fight back in 2018. So you can kind of go through his record and be like, hey, you're one of those guys who could have done really well, except if maybe the smoky smoke didn't do what it did to you. I'm just kidding. But there's reasons why people choose to smoke, right? I just think in this guy's case, we're seeing very real skill come out and play, but unfortunately with certain decisions like that, you're finding that for some reason, a guy like this who's shown this kind of skill, that anaconda choke against Park, I mean, these are examples of elite skill, right? Yeah. And so I'm just wondering why we don't see that more often, but unfortunately, I think it's going to show in this line. I have to go Vieira, and I'm actually going to give him minus 300.
Wow, he's actually a minus 400.
Wow, I had him at minus 350. Pies, save your arm strength. Let's move on.
Anything you want to touch on that one before we
No. I think you prefaced the fight fairly well for this one. I would say I think the only lapse is, and we talked about the grappling, and I just think that is such an uncharted territory for you. That's actually funny enough. You know me well enough about the fight game. When you're saying what the is this? I'm like, oh my god, guys, roll more, please. 5 rounds, roll more, please, roll more. That's why this is that world, right? That's where this guy's coming from, and it's just a different world, if he's able to expose that man, this man deserves to be the minus 400. But like I said, 85% takedown defense. We know the quality of opponent that he has faced so far, so take that with a grain of salt. So be very careful with how you bet, but an under here looks absolutely very, very telling. I'm down with that one.
That can be juicy, and also looking at either of these men by submission might have some serious value on them. So when those extracurricular bets do come out, we'll be sure to glance at those and lock something in for you guys. All right, and that takes us into the main event of the prelim card. So, this is a nice lightweight bout between Bobby Green and Jim Miller. Bobby Green, I feel like that's a name that pops up for us so much as of late. So, let's touch on him first. This guy, man, he's been in the UFC since 2013, man. Sporting a 27-11-1 record, and he's 8-6 in the UFC, but with some very credible fights under his belt. He's made mention of it before. Some of these guys who've been around, their records, they show around 500, but when you dive into who they've fought, it's actually a little bit more telling. So, most recently he did lose to Thiago Moses back in October. But prior to that,
Pies was really pissed about that one. Pies was pissed about that one. I don't know if you can remember that one. You were hella pissed about that one.
Yeah, because I didn't think he won. So
and think about it like this: he would have been that Kevin Holland level had he got that. He would have been one of those fighters we'd be talking about, right, in 2020. It's an interesting situation. Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
And it's crazy how, those things dictate your careers. So, prior to that fight, he was rolling, and he had won 3 in a row, beat Guida, Venata, Alan Patrick. And man, like I said, it's crazy to see some of the guys he's fought early in his career, Dustin Poirier, Barbosa. So, this guy's going to be looking forward to get back on track. And, if we're talking about credibility, look no further than Jim Miller himself, man. 32-15 record. Jesus, man. And look at those losses. Oh, my God, man. Honestly, I had to stop making the list. There were so many fire names on there. I'm like, once I got to Diego Sanchez, I'm like, there's no point in me listing any more names, man. Charles Oliveira, Dan Hooker, Anthony Pettis, Dustin Poirier, Diego Sanchez. Like, my God, man. We could just keep going. He did have 3 fights in 2020. He did go 1-2 in those fights. He finished Roosevelt Roberts and had a couple of losses by decision to, I believe, Vince Pichel and Scott Holtzman. So, he's going to be looking forward to getting back on track. This is a great fight to headline the prelims, man. I'm looking forward to it. What do you got for us here, man?
Yeah, so, for me, I love that Jimmy Miller's getting a chance to keep fighting. He's elite. You went down the list. I don't need to. The man has fought absolutely everybody. He's actually looked pretty good in his most recent fights. You brought up Roosevelt Roberts. Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the most sneakiest, little submissions we've seen. And the guy is getting there, right? Like his boxing is looked good. It's getting better, but that ground game just continues to put him in the absolute deepest of talks when it comes to, who we should be watching the UFC. And, if there's anyone that's looking for a gatekeeper, just avoid this man's door, because with your name, he's now getting to the next level. And I think Jim Miller, that's this fight, right? Like I think Bobby Green, Jim Miller, like these are the names we want to be watching, right? These guys fighting. Mm-hmm. Think about how exciting this is going to be, Pies. Well, both guys are going to want to throw. Jim Miller's, if he's getting outstruck, he's going to want to go for that takedown. But Bobby Green can scramble. He did that against Venata. Venata was getting outstruck in any scramble. You saw that Green could pretty much hold his own. And so I'm actually really, really surprised with kind of, think about how good he did against a guy like Thiago Moises. I mean, that was a fight where I just saw, a guy really come out of his shell. And I want to look back at his record and you think about, it's a different Bobby Green that you saw 5 to 10 years ago. I think the skill was there, but maybe he was just a young guy kind of having his fun or doing his thing, if you will. But I think at this point, he's just taking his career very seriously. And like you said, the Dustin Poiriers and all those kinds of things, those are really going to be, the difference maker when you're hitting this prime at this level, going 3-0 during the pandemic, potentially, that 4-0, we'll leave it up to Pies. I just think that we're dealing with elites. Go back to Jim Miller, only person ever knock him out. Donald Cerrone. You know what I mean? Like these are some very serious contenders. And you talked about Vink Pickle. That's how we're gonna drop the name. He's actually a really good fighter, right? He just doesn't fight as much as you would think, but that guy barely ever loses, right? So again, Jim Miller constantly fighting the top class of the MMA, a top class that the UFC has to offer. And I think in this case, you're finally getting him, leave me alone. I don't want to be your gatekeeper. Let me take on a guy who is 3-1 in his last 4, and one of us can really kind of make that next jump.
Absolutely. And yeah, we're really looking forward to this one. It's going to be a great one. A great way to headline and finish off that prelim card. Where do you see this one landing?
So because of his scrambling ability, because of all of those, I mean, even from a Vegas perspective, like that's what I'm trying my best to take in. The recency bias is there. And if you're watching these fights, you're seeing what Bobby Green can do. Jim Miller does have the skill. So I'm going to go with Bobby Green as the favorite. Now, I think I might actually get laughed at for this line, but maybe I'm personally just, you know what, I'll try to split it down the middle to where I really think that Vegas could go crazy and put it, but I have to give it a -135. I can't go any higher than that. For Bobby Green.
Wow. -275, bro.
Bro, I was like, you cannot put him over -300. I will slap somebody. But -275 is crazy. It's crazy.
It's so high, yo.
Yeah. It's really high. The thing is that he's really good. Because if he can avoid this ground game, I just think he might actually be the better volume striker. You know what I mean? He will land more. He will cut him up 100%. So that's my thing. You want to talk about some Paisanian bets? We're going to be talking about maybe either man on points. Looks real tasty here. We're talking about Miller not getting knocked out since a prime Donald Cerrone via, I think it was kicks and punches and then ground and pound, that kind of thing. Like just a constant like mauling, that type of classic Donald Cerrone. And then we're talking about, Bobby Green, who really does pretty much lose on decisions. So let's keep a Paisanian lookout for that one, because I think that one's
gonna be that gets me excited. Yeah, we're gonna get stupendous odds on the decision.
Yeah, because like you're talking about the perfect fight, homie, to bet on either fighter in the best way possible and go into the pay-per-view with a smile on our face.
You said it best, man. So that wraps up our prelims, and we're gonna be highlighting the main card very shortly. All right, so that wraps up the prelims. Time to move on to the main card, the pay-per-view, and kicking off the main card for us is a middleweight bout between Julian Marquez and Maki Pitolo. Not gonna lie, man, it's making me want some Maki myself right now.
Yo, I always think about sushi, and I'm like, fuck, I would love to go to some, even some beautiful Ito. I could just do some Ito with you,
My man, I'd love to see that you made a stop by there the other day. Definitely making me want some Maki. So, on one side, we got Julian Marquez, or the Cuban Missile Crisis. What an interesting name this man. So, he comes in with a 7-2 record, has yet to make his UFC debut. So the fact that he's making it on a main card in a pay-per-view is just nuts to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this guy has to bring. His last fight was actually back in 2018 when he lost to Alessio Di Chirico, who we actually saw recently. And that was on a tough finale, I believe.
But do you remember, that was just the card, but do you remember where do you remember Alessio Di Chirico from recently? I think you should know where you've seen him.
Well, unfortunately, the win against Joaquin Buckley. So.
But my favorite part of that entire event was the aftermath. We showed the video of Dana's reaction when he went over to congratulate the guy. Remember his reaction? That was still one of the funniest videos.
For sure.
What's up with that guy?
So good, man. So this will be Julian's UFC debut here. We did mention that he lost to Alessio Di Chirico last. Prior to that, he had won 5 in a row and against some guys who are in the UFC now, Phil Hawes, Darren Stewart. So, the man should kind of be ready here. On the flip side, we got Coconut Bombs, another great.
I know. Yo, Coconut Bombs versus Cuban Missile Crisis. That's the one, right? Oh God,
that's the one. That's the one. Yeah. And man, even looking into this man has Coconut Bombs gear, yo. It's so sick.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So, Coconut Bombs, he comes in with a 13-7 record. He is 1-3 in the UFC, and he has lost 2 in a row, and both in 2020. One to the hands of Impa, who, had the infamous knockout courtesy of Joaquin Buckley. And the next one was Darren Stewart, who he lost via guillotine. He did have a win in 2020 as well. He did knock out Charles Bird. So, really looking forward to seeing this one. Julian making his debut. Where do you see this one going?
Yeah, so it's kind of hilarious. Like this fight, I wish you kind of watched the Julian Marquez versus Phil Hawes fight. Really kind of talk about how good Julian Marquez is, right? A part of me really thought that he was going to be more active. I thought I was going to see him fight more often. That was back in 2017. So let's talk about where Phil Hawes is now and where Julian Marquez is. You know what I mean? So I thought he was able to secure a pretty good win over Darren Stewart. The Vitor Miranda fight fell through. So that was supposed to be the big name fight for him. He's such a powerful striker. And the thing that I love about him is he kind of comes like, he's a big burly man. He comes in at a thick
he's a big boy for sure.
Yeah, like he comes in at a nice thick 6'3", you know what I mean? Like I think that reach and that skill on the feet and the power, man, it's just going to be really, really tough for Maki to deal with. And I think even when you think back to his fights against Impa Kasanganay, like we know that he's very much a counter style striker. So, that decision loss, it's very telling of the style of fight that was, you know what I mean? Even with Darren Stewart, I think that you can kind of see that there's certain things about Maki's game that he's certainly improving on, but at the same time, like right now, this is going to be a very real striking battle. And I think the big thing for me is like, we got to expect Marquez to just be an absolute massive favorite.
Well, let's dive right into that. How big of a favorite do you think he is?
I want to say my number right now is like my potential number here has him as the highest favorite on the card.
Wow.
And I'm just trying to go through the card quickly to see if I was a little bit just tipsy in my life at the time, but You know what? I'm gonna go with a clean -300. I think Julian Marquez deserves to be a -300 on this fight.
So what you're saying is that -175, we're definitely taking it.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. And if you're not taking that and sprinkling that under, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, man, given that he's only a -175, that knockout has to pay decent.
So here's my thing. This is a typical. Let's have this conversation, right, Paisan? This man in the first few rounds is a beast. But one thing we can say is we talked about how thick he was. What do we know about guys like this?
They get tired real quick.
Yeah, so man, if Maki Pitolo can truly deal with some of this damage and for real, maybe try to work in some of this, some takedowns, work against the fence. Like in reality, you're really just trying to take away someone's power, and the way you do that is by getting in close. And in this fight, you can very much utilize some grappling, right? And when you think about the takedown defense, I'm just quickly looking it up here. Julian Marquez doesn't go for takedowns at all. He is trying to strike, and he's trying to strike clean. And when you look at the striking stats, both of these guys are very much line in line. Like, Pitolo lands and hits pretty much at a, he lands at 5 and he hits it 4 per minute. So it's like he's definitely throwing and getting hit. When you look at Marquez, it's along the same lines, but in the 3 range. So the activity is going to be there on the feet. My question is like, well, that 66 takedown accuracy, 66% over 15 rounds is actually, or 50 minutes is really, really good at the UFC level. So Maki Pitolo, if you want to, prove these guys wrong, I would totally be trying to, get in that distance and keep it close and avoid those power strikes. Like what he did to Phil Hawes. I mean, that's you basically turning away from a man who has nothing but power and ready to throw strikes, like kicks like that at any point in time.
Yeah, like you said, man, he's really going to have to aim to slow him down, reduce that power so that in rounds 2 and 3, when even those are landing, they're not, doing as much damage as they would in the early rounds. So, stay tuned for that one. We'll probably be looking at some over-unders as well once they get released. And once we do, we'll lock some stuff in for you guys.
Most definitely. I'm loving that fight.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a great one. And, that takes us right into the next one. It's going to be another great one. We got a bantamweight bout. On one end, we got Pedro Munhoz. And on the other end, I believe he's a natural featherweight in Jimmie Rivera. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm just kidding. Right. He actually fought once at featherweight, and he's a natural bantamweight. But I wanted to kind of, give you a little tips. But the last fight was at featherweight, yes. You did okay. But like he basically went through the crowd. If you look at the names, the names that he lost to at bantamweight. Sure. Yeah,
exactly. So Pedro, he actually comes in as the 7th ranked bantamweight, which is just nuts, man. He sports an 18-5 record. He is 8-5 in the UFC. But he has lost 2 in a row. One to my boy with the dopest name in the UFC, and Aljamain Sterling. And the other against Frankie Edgar, who we're actually seeing, tomorrow. So that's going to be a great one.
That fight's been canceled, man. It's crazy.
I was literally, that was the next thing that I was going to say. After that fight was rescheduled 3 times, right? So
it's crazy.
Pretty crazy. Pedro's going to be looking to get back to his winning ways. What's crazy is that these two actually did meet in 2015 with Jimmie. Jimmie got the upper hand there by split decision. So I'm sure both guys are looking forward to this rematch here. On the flip side, Jimmie comes in sparkling, 23-4 record. He burst onto the UFC in 2015. He won his first 5 bouts before actually losing to Marlon Moraes, who we've touched on a few times back in 2018. He does have a few tough losses recently, but again, look at those names, right? Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling. And, he was able to bounce back with the unanimous decision victory against Cody Stamann, who we're actually pretty high on as well, right? So, this is going to be a great one. What do you see unfolding between these two guys?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I really love the fact that it's kind of a rematch in that light. But when you look at some of the guys that Jimmie Rivera has been fighting over the course of his time at bantamweight, I mean, even with the losses, that's experience galore. And in the fight against Cody Stamann, I mean, that was 2 guys. I kind of described it as very similar, but they're basically like 2 rams just going at each other. And in that sense, I'm really I'm really kind of interested to see if Pedro Munhoz is very ready for the fights that he's taking, because when you think about, the Aljamain Sterling loss, like he very much had trouble coming back. Like he was suffering injuries, like all this COVID stuff, like between everybody in the world. Like there's just a lot of reasons why, going into that fight, even though it was a split decision loss, I just feel like he has a lot of adversity to come back from. And when you think about what Jimmie Rivera is putting together, like, I just think this man's the real deal. I really believe he's going to be able to improve on that loss in some ways. When you think about even the elite level of striking that these guys have, like when you go into their takedown defense, it's actually ridiculous, right? Because Pedro Munhoz is an 86% takedown defense. When you look at Jimmie Rivera, he's now looking at 92%. So when you take into consideration that both of these guys are able to kind of avoid it that well against the guys that they fight, they very much want to keep the fight standing and just go for broke.
Absolutely. And so, safe to say we might be glancing at some unders here, but where do you see the line landing on this one?
Yeah, funny enough.
Very curious to see what you think here.
Yeah, no, I very much do think that Jimmie Rivera deserves to be the favorite here. And if he isn't, that's going to be a lot of hype for Pedro Munhoz. And I do think that Jimmie Rivera can win this fight. I think he has the ability to kind of get in there and have those dog fights. I think if Pedro Munhoz, tries to go for the takedown, he's able to deal with those kinds of things as well. I just think when he only loses to top 10 fighters, I mean, Jimmie Rivera is a top 10 fighter. That's what kind of looks like the toughest for me. So I got to go Jimmie Rivera with a minus 150. A minus 150 line sounds good.
Oh, baby, let's go. Bring him down on the prices right, taking home all the prizes today, man. Minus 150 on the dot, Minus 150 on the dot.
Oh, wow. Where's my guy? I forgot the guy. Oh, my God.
I've been waiting for my homie here.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Get him twice in one show? Oh, buddy, man.
Oh, wow. I think we almost saw him. I think we've seen him 3 times, haven't we?
3 times. You're right. My bad.
I think this is the third time, People are going to think I'm cheating. This is crazy. This is hilarious. Honestly, I don't. I really don't. I don't.
Trust me, he does not. Because like I said, these lines we did not find even until today. So this is my first time looking at that line myself. So I know he's not cheating. So, minus 150, I feel like that shows a decent amount of value on Rivera. Would you not say?
Yeah, I think he has all the tools to win this fight. And, he got the momentum back with that big win. And you know what, man? I think Cody's just proving to be a very tough fight for anybody on the planet. On a day that you can just beat him via decision, you take the win and you walk. It seems to be kind of like in this current mood that he's in. Jimmie Rivera put up a very good fight against a fighter that looked like he could beat almost anybody on the planet. So I really do think he deserves that edge. And you know what? I think Pedro Munhoz is getting the bump with, you said, his 7th ranking, plus that, not looking like a massive dog. I think these are the reasons why you can just see that his record still stands, right? Aljamain Sterling is your next in line for a bantamweight title shot. And I think that's where Frankie Edgar right now is kind of getting his dues with that headline kind of a fight. But at the end of the day, this bantamweight division pretty much has its cream of the crop ready to go.
For sure. And so, stay tuned for that one. It does seem like Jimmie can be an early lean lock, but we're going to be glancing at round finishes and that kind of stuff as things get released. And we'll keep that,
Jimmie on points on a 3-round fight though always looks good, man, because he just likes to box you up and try to tag you up for 3 rounds, man. And so does Pedro, but I just don't think that Pedro has the power. He don't have
Jimmie
the power.
by decision can pay nicely, man. That can pay juicy for sure. All right, and so that takes us into a nice middleweight bout. I'm really pumped about this one.
Man, you must be so excited about this with Ian. You're just like. You must be just itching.
I am, and to be honest, both these guys have dope names, man. Kelvin Gastelum, that could be a villain on Gotham. You know what I mean? For sure. So we got Kelvin Gastelum taking on my boy Ian Heinisch, or Heinisch as I like. This guy's
giving him. He's given his Heineck, but you've given him his official nickname for sure. He's definitely Ian Heinesch to us.
I'm hoping he throws some high knees next Saturday as well.
So, no, you don't. I'm just kidding.
So on one end, we got Kelvin Gastelum. Everyone knows this guy, 16-6 record. He has lost 3 in a row, so he's going to be looking forward to getting back on track. But again, look at those 3 names, man. Adesanya, Hermanson, and a split decision loss to Darren Till. So real credible fights. He has a bunch of credible wins as well. And, dare I say, did he put Michael Bisping into retirement?
I mean, like, Bisping he's one of those guys that, like, he was all over the place, right? The guy got to see a title fight, GSP. I mean, I don't know, like, was he already retired and just taking as many fights as he could? Who knows, right?
For sure. I figured that would probably be the case, but I figured I'd throw some controversy in there.
Right?
Sure.
Think about how beautiful this man got to end his career. A Silva fight, that Rockhold comeback. Like, all of these fights are just, he's got such a storybook fighter story. It's incredible. For
sure. And then, on the flip side, we got my boy Heinisch here. So Heinisch comes in with a 14-3 record. He's 3-2 in the UFC. And he's going to look to keep that momentum going after he beat Gerald Meerschaert at UFC 250. Prior to that, he did have back-to-back losses against Omari Akhmadev and Derek Brunson, both by unanimous decision. So, he's going to be looking forward to keeping that momentum going. What do you see between these two guys, man?
Yeah, so for me, it's Gastelum really has improved striking, right? He's starting to see, like, you saw him go 5 rounds with basically the best striker on the planet right now. It's kind of interesting to just see where his lapse in judgment kind of takes him sometimes. When you look back at the Joker fight, he was actually doing so well on the feet that the fight went to the ground for similar reasons. But I mean, in that split second, I mean, that leg lock basically ended the fight, right? It's unfortunate for Gastelum, but when you even think about that fight, he probably was just so prepared. He looked like he was ready for that one, in my personal opinion. And I think this is very much what you would consider a comeback fight, right? The big thing I like for him in this one is the southpaw against the orthodox with not much of a reach advantage. Like, this man has been working on his boxing so much. And to see him now get the chance to really showcase it, I think we could be watching a very, very interesting striking battle between two guys who actually love to strike. And they have pretty good defense, almost at a 60%, both of them. So I think we're just going to be able to see two guys really go after it. And, the guy with the nice power shots, nice combos. I like the way that Kelvin's learned to throw his power shots, It's putting even some of the best guys off their toes a bit. And I think that's where he's able to kind of utilize his skill in wrestling to offset that, right? Like, his ability to change levels, let alone feint and fake the change in both levels. I just think like that's a guy that, without question, half of his striking success has to come with the ability to kind of fake that takedown, because frankly, everyone's going to be looking to avoid the ground with him, other than maybe, Jack Hermanson. So I do like what I see from Ian Heinisch. I do believe that this is the best fight for him. I think that he gets to go in there, take on a striker, a guy that he won't lose much height and reach in front of. He can definitely, bring a submission game to the table. But these guys won't be going to the ground unless it absolutely needs to. They both have similar defense, and even when you talk about Gastelum's takedown accuracy, it's not very high, right? It's still at a 37%. The one thing I want to point out with Gastelum's stats is when you really think about it, especially over the last little bit, they're against such elite fighters, and he does seem to last a while most of the time. So I think in that sense, you have some skewness, but again, it does have to be accounted for, right? That is part of the statistical approach. But yeah, I think that's what kind of shocks people the most, is where that fight could be a lot closer than you think. Because let's think back to the Gastelum line with Joker. A lot of people thought that line was outrageous. So did we. We have 2 bets in our entire time doing this that we can easily say. I don't even think one was while we were doing the show, but Gastelum and Anthony Smith on both those occasions were heavily ridden and heavily, you know what I mean? Like, those were lessons to be learned. And I just think in both cases, Gastelum's feeling the same way.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. And it's going to create some hesitation on the trigger finger on Gastelum again, given how we've been burned in the past. So, let's dive right into these lines here. Who do you see being the favorite here?
With that said, I can see him being a favorite up onto a -250, but again, he can't be a pick'em. There's just no way you can give Kelvin Gastelum a pick'em after that kind of a record and after that kind of a showing in some of the fights he's put together. So I will be giving him a -200 line to kind of play both sides.
Oh man, I want to give it to you. Let's give you another showcase
Wow.
showdown. Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Wow.
I'm down to see my boy again.
There he is. There he is. Wow, how is this even real? This is like, wow. It
You
might
said
be
minus
time.
200, right?
I did say minus 200.
You said minus 200? Yeah. So he's a minus 210 favorite. So within the
Jesus.
10, you know, that's well worth it. Yeah, well done. Well
Wow.
done.
Pai Zane. Me and you will need to have a meeting over the next little bit here. Because we are hot
that's for
fire.
damn sure.
We are hot fire.
So given that minus 210 line, anything stand out to you there?
I do, like I said, right? If there was something that I hate to say it, but if I were ever to be a professional fighter, Kelvin Gastelum is very much something that I kind of look at myself, and you really analyze yourself as a person, and those mental lapses where he might train his absolute ass off and maybe eat a little bit on the side. This man is so much smaller than everyone, but has chosen to go to a higher weight class just so he could eat. So, I mean, I truly believe
Spirit animal, man. Spirit animal.
I truly believe that that side of things is where he just needs to keep his wits about him. If you watch the Adesanya fight, that's an example of where you watch the man truly go in there. I was going to say on steroids, but in this sport, you simply cannot say that as kind of like, just a way of saying someone did something very well. But
So a faux pas, man.
Right? But that was like, and it wasn't even peak, man, because I think that's a Gastelum that we can see. It's just, that's what it takes to be championship level fighter. To be quite real, like that level of mental game to go along with the physical, and he's got all the tools, man. He's got all the tools as a striker, and this is truly a fight for him to be able to win.
Yeah, and I think, this is a great one for us to wait till the weigh-ins, kind of see how he's looking and see how both dudes are looking. But seems like the early lean is on Gastelum, and that's something we'll lock in a little closer to.
And I mean, you can even keep track because of how early we kind of are doing this. I mean, line movement is going to be your game with cards this early, and I think you're going to be able to really tell if we lock things in. I mean, picks will go up early too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, and so that takes us into our co-main event. We got a nice ladies straw.
Before we start, I have a question for you. Is there a fight on this prelim that you believe that could end? Because I truly don't think that this fight stays 4 fights.
Should be the co-main, right?
How are you getting people to pay that like extra money for the pay-per-view on 4 fights? You can't possibly believe that people want to watch that potential wrestling match for 5 rounds for that price.
You're right. And to be honest, man, I would not be surprised to see Bobby Green move up right into that slot.
That's what I was thinking, because I really did feel like Bobby Green and Jim Miller almost deserved the opportunity to fight on a pay-per-view, But when you really look at it, man, the one fight I just want to throw out there, I'm going to throw out 2 to be real. Bilal Muhammad, I mean, for what he might be able to put together, and Diego Lima, who's been able to showcase such elite level skill when he's been at his prime. I mean, that's a fight that could end up really, really good. And the other one I wanted to kind of get your opinion on is the Kelleher Ricky Simone fight. That one looks absolutely like those guys just move, and we're both. I mean, as much as even you could make the argument that even Pies is falling in love with the smaller guys as he makes a transition from heavyweight to light heavyweight.
Absolutely. And honestly, the thing that stands out about both of those that you suggested is that, Simone and Muhammad are probably going to be part of the future of the UFC, right? They're going to have a big part in this league going forward. Exactly. So, the opportunity to highlight, their skills on a pay-per-view seems pretty enticing for Mr. Dana, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think you brought up both sides of the coin, right? Like that Jim Miller fight. Like, do you want to entice the guys who've been watching for 10, 20 years? Or do you want to entice some of the guys who are jumping on board and get some of these fast-moving guys who are going to throw some real bombs and see what they can do to build some hype for guys that, might actually fight again? Whereas, Jim Miller, for any reason, God forbid, decides to retire. You know what I mean? Like, for all these little reasons.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, you could always put that out there.
Exactly. And, so, we probably will have some moving parts. You actually mentioned it in our last show, UFC Vegas 18. And it was like Uncle Dana was listening because Michael Johnson and Clay Guida did get moved up to a high-profile fight.
Now we're just predicting
like,
the entire fight game, Pies. Between you and I think we're just predicting the entire thing now.
Yo, Dana, man, if you need any help, just give us a
shout, bro. We'll plan your entire 2022, everything. Give us a shout. We'll get it all written up. Not like WWE style. We ain't saying we're gonna fix anything. We're just saying,
Yeah, we'll just help you out, man. All right, so that takes us into what is currently scheduled as the co-main event right now, and that is a ladies strawweight bout between Maycee Barber and Alexa Grasso. So Barber, wow, what can we say about this girl, man? She's the 10th ranked female strawweight, and she's 22 years old. That is insane, man. She is 100%. Literally just tearing through the scene. She sports an 8-1 record in her young career.
Because the way I want to put that is like, if you go through the list, bro, these names that Maycee Barber is just, you know what I mean? Like even that Roxanne Modafferi, like you've seen her fight, you know exactly who that is. And the Gillian Robertson win. I mean, like these are, you love the way I said that. I know you did. Like you keep going down the list. Hannah Cypher.
I loved it because I was going to say it, but not like that. So.
and Mallory Martin, right? Like, these are all the wins that like Mallory Martin's on the, we talked about it, right? And on the prelim, these are all people we're going to be bringing up. So,
Hannah
I think, like these are people you love. And it's the.
So like we said, 8-1 record, 3-1 in the UFC. Look at some of these wins, right? Gillian Robertson, Hannah Cyphers. That her lone loss does come to. How do you say it, man? Say it one more time.
Roxanne Modafferi.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And that was by decision in January of 2020. So Maycee, beast. Looking forward to seeing her back in. Alexa Grasso, same thing, man. Another beast right there. 12-3 record. She's been in the UFC since 2016, man. That's crazy. 4-3 record. Most recently beat Jeon Kim by decision in August. And it's what was mind-boggling when looking into her is the level of canceled bouts that she had against people. Claudia Gadelha, Marina Rodriguez, Angela Hill.
Claudia Gadelha.
These are the
dum. It's because she reminds me of my wife. That's what it is.
So, crazy to see some of those, being canceled. These are high profile people. And Maycee Barber's a high profile herself. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this one. Educate me a little bit more on these ladies, man.
Yeah, so let's quickly just dive right into what you brought up, like the canceled bouts, right? When you think about what she came back strong and look after losing a bunch of vets, I mean, she just hasn't fought as much as we thought. People were falling in love with this girl before she even came into the UFC. She just looked the part, if you know what I mean. So the way I see
shout
it,
out to your brother-in-law.
To my brother-in-law, shout, always pulling out his phone and like, hey, I can't wait for her to fight in the UFC. But she actually missed weight for the Gadelha fight, and then Corona ended up, changing the scheduling of the following fight. So for me, I'm just like, there's a part of, responsibility, there's a part of luck, and all these kinds of things that come into play. But when she fights, man. And that's the beauty of it. I just find that the striking is there, the grit, the heart. Like the girl goes in. She might look like Ariana Grande, but she fights like I mean, I don't know. No, but like she.
Yo, that was amazing. That was so good.
The striking is absolutely elite, and that's where I'm actually going to be enjoying this fight. Right, I think why you have these girls headlining a UFC pay-per-view right now is simply because if it stays this way, for a fact that you're getting two of the youngest prospects in the female divisions that are absolutely going to throw. They're going to throw. There's going to be blood. There's going to be pain. And you're all going to enjoy it. And frankly, you all should just hope that they kind of roll and do some jiu-jitsu and have some fun,
No, you're hoping for that. I'm down to see the blood, man. So where do you see the line landing on this one?
Yeah, so I mean,
let's giving me showcase showdowns, man. I don't need to see my boy anymore.
So I think that I could actually change the Grasso, pick and be like, maybe she's the favorite, but I have to kind of just ruin it for you and go with our girl Maycee Barber here. I think she's put together what I want to see. Shout out my girl. I always got to shout out anytime she's on anyone's fight list. Carla Esparza, one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time, right there. One of the losses that Alexa Grasso has had to face when it comes to some of these, bigger name veterans, but I just don't think we've seen enough from her to merit a favorite or even close to a pick'em against someone like Maycee Barber. That's just my honest opinion. I love the way that Maycee Barber throws her combinations. I think it might actually be one of the more crisper, versatile strikers we've seen, in these prospect ranks in quite some time. I'm very, very interested because, she trains with people like Ben Askren and Rufus Sport. That's that Anthony Showtime Pettis. Those are all your boys who do love to throw. And when you got Askren in your corner, you at least have to how to wrestle. So I'm actually pretty excited for this fight. I think, that's where we're gonna see if the girls can truly, from a prospect and non-Amanda Nunes, a Holly Holm, type of fighters, can we get them to start headlining cards? Because I think now we're starting to see some real skill come into play, and it's looking real fun.
Yeah, and these two ladies are the epitome of that. So let's hope they put on a show. What's your final number on Maycee Barber here?
Yeah, okay. I do owe you that, eh? It's funny because, I was thinking about it. It's like, how you brought up, Kevin Holland, we talk about the best contender series fighter ever. I mean, Maycee Barber could be that, right? Alex Perez is there, but yeah, I think Maycee Barber could be the best fighter off of that show. And this could be that time we see her. So what line are we going to put her at? We're going to actually not touch the minus 300s, but we're going to put her at a minus 190. Or sorry, minus 290.
Wow. Okay.
Did I change that?
So how would you feel if she was a dog?
Wow.
Very rare to get the big wows from Sugi here. So.
Wow. You're lying to me.
No,
that's a lie.
Grasso is a minus 140 favorite. We get a plus 110 on Barber here. And man, when I first saw the line, I'm like, I have to take this immediately.
So that's the thing about Grasso, right? It's like she has the striking that can compete. Like, that's my true opinion of that. If it comes down to that next fight, she's got that resume obviously speaks a lot louder than what we see from Maycee Barber. But what we see from Maycee Barber is some very devastating stuff. And so what I'm just a little shocked with is how little that's playing into the lines, because I do have to call the Vegas line, right? So my shockness also comes from me thinking that Maycee Barber was actually still the favorite. And I did not think it could be a pick'em. So I was trying to actually juice it up for Vegas. And even my minus 190, you know what I mean? Like, that's just still not even close in my opinion. And we're not talking like prospect watch when I tried to sell Gillian Robertson as a
for sure. So at plus 110, man, that seems a little enticing for sure.
I think so. I definitely do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, stay tuned for that one as weigh-ins come in. We'll be locking in our picks, but it seems like we do have an early lean here on that co-main event.
I mean, I don't even see a crazy size or anything. You know what I mean? This is just going to be a wonderful showcase of two great female prospects. So I'm glad they're on the pay-per-view, and I can't wait to see that fight.
Yeah, me too, for sure. And, that takes us right into the main event, and what a main event it's going to be, man. I feel like I haven't seen this guy fight in a long time, so I'm really excited. Would you not agree? I'm sure he fought recently, but it just seems like so long ago. Kamaru Usman in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's one of those guys where you need a guy like Jorge Masvidal to bring hype to the fight. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you're kind of Mr. Cringe, and that's the thing, right? You're not selling a guy like me. I'll watch you wrestle for 5 rounds. You don't need to convince me, Kamaru. I'm watching, and I'll watch happily, and I'll be excited. But I get that the promotion and all this craziness we got to do for the fight. It's just if that's not your cup of tea in the MMA world, we can always tell. You know what I'm saying, Pies?
For sure, absolutely. It's so true. And so, we have Kamaru Usman here taking on Gilbert Burns. Kamaru out of Nigeria is truly the definition of dominance, man. 17-1 record. The Nigerian Nightmare has won 16 in a row. That is insane, man. And 15 of those were in the UFC if we were including tough, So the man is truly the definition of dominance. His victories are all against the greats in the division. We're talking Covington, Woodley, Dos Anjos, Maia, and most recently, you just touched on him, Masvidal, right? So, these are no joke of victories as well. On the flip side, Gilbert Burns, man, what a number one contender he is. He's sporting a 19-3 record, 12-3 in the UFC. Yeah, we go through the list of Kamaru. Gilbert's defeated most of these guys as well, man. And most recently, Tyron Woodley, he beat by decision in 2020. So, this bout has been rescheduled and canceled multiple times. We've been looking forward to it. We're finally going to get it next Saturday. Give us a little bit more information on this one.
Yeah, so it's just, you have the best wrestler probably in MMA right now taking on a guy who really does look to have the power to compete for a title. The way I see it is if you believe in Gilbert Burns' power, then you're probably gonna want to have that belief in him. But I do think Kamaru Usman has what it takes to be one of those GSP type of champions. When it comes from a wrestling standpoint, like I don't think this man has ever even been taken down. He stands big for a welterweight. So it's just like, it's like even in the way I'm talking about the fight, like I'm going to be excited about it. But I mean, I kind of listened to you give me that entire rundown of the fight. And it's like, I'm like as excited as I can be for what looks like, Colby Covington. He actually went in as a phenomenal striker against Kamaru Usman. And what happened? Kamaru Usman actually dusted him. Like he dusted him. He absolutely dusted him. Like I can't like if you go into his record right now and you actually look, his only finish in the last 3 years, 2 years. Oh wow, 2021, 3 years is actually that Colby Covington win. And so when you talk about a striker, yeah, okay, Jorge Masvidal, unanimous decision. Let's talk about that decision. That was a very real dominating fight. So at the end of the day, Masvidal took the fight he had to take. It is what it is. It was a canceled championship fight that Gilbert Burns was supposed to have. So at the end of the day, we're seeing what should have happened. We're going to see if that right hand is very real on Gilbert Burns, right? Like at the end of the day, he's supposed to have power in both hands. He's supposed to do what it takes to just get this man out probably early. If it's a 5-round fight, I mean, that's the thing, right? These guys have just been we're basically watching them do something they've done for hours probably in total. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's one of those things where if there's probably statistical evidence on exactly how this could go if it had to go 200 times over. So I wonder what that even looks like. But in this case, I mean, from what we get to see and from the improvement factors and everything, I think Usman has underrated striking. His wrestling could be pound for pound the best in the UFC. So I mean, Gilbert Burns needs to come in there with some boxing of not just like a Rocky and Apollo and a Ivan Drago, but like a real boxer, like a Floyd Mayweather, I just think it's going to take a lot of movement. It's going to take a lot of landing and not getting hit and keeping your legs moving. You can't give this guy a chance to get on you. And if he does, I just think he has the ability to take you down because chances are you're not getting him down.
No, for sure. And like you said, man, that technical dominance of Usman is just, there's something to say about it, man. He's very versatile, ability to adapt in any fight and just have that technical dominance, do what he needs to do to make sure he wins every fight. And that really stood out to me when going through his record. It's just win by decision, win by decision, win by decision. This man is smart, man. He knows how to win his fights. So, I'm looking forward to seeing if he can continue doing that with, like you said, his training partner in Gilbert Burns. These guys have probably gone back and forth a million times.
Yeah, can you imagine, guys? In 6 months when we do this, imagine how if it's already feeling a little bit like clockwork, it's just one of those things, right? Like these two are if they stand there for 5 rounds and don't do anything, blame yourselves for wanting to see this fight for so long. Goddamn.
Very well put, my man. Very well put. So let's dive into the lines here. I mean, I'm sure you know who the favorite is, but how big of a number do you see for him?
I think a -200 is a comfortable number based on how we do our lines. I just can't see him skyrocketing to -300. I just can't. But maybe he did. But I don't think he could have opened from a Vegas line at more than -250, -270. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think he can get pushed that high. It's just I think Gilbert Burns has enough bump on him right now after what he's done and what people like to see to have that Vegas line just sitting hovering probably at a -200 to a -250.
Okay, give me a final number here. Let's see if
-200 is clean. I'm happy with minus. Okay, I missed it. Okay, -200.
Throughout your little spiel, you said the right number, so I was seeing if I could kind of bring it out in you. But
it's all good.
It's -275 favorite.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You don't need any more showcase showdown.
Yeah.
One more time.
Yeah. Hundo. What's funny is we can anticipate him next time. Now, even I kind of want to just look for him right now, and I don't even get to see him till we edit. But it's just So yeah, he does open at a -275 favorite.
do you see a scenario where we don't take Usman?
Again, like at the end of the day, we talked about it in some of the earlier fights. Like if you truly believe in Burns, how can you not just flirt with some of these unders, right? There's absolutely zero chance, I think, that he out wrestles him for 5 rounds. You know, Gilbert Burns is a pretty big guy too, but I don't think he can. Wouldn't that be shocking though? That's what I'm talking about. When we want to talk about MMA, that's what I'm talking about. What I would give to watch Gilbert Burns out wrestle Kamaru Usman for 5 rounds. And that's nothing against Kamaru Usman. I'm just a man of storyline. You know, that's just a man of storyline going to work. You know, like I think that would be a phenomenal fight to watch. Or you know what? Even from I think that was pretty unbiased to be quite real. But I think even from a more even and realistic standpoint, to watch a very competitive wrestling battle kind of unfold on the feet and really watch a strike-on battle go down, kind of like that. The way Kamaru Usman really opened up on Colby was really cool, man. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really fun to watch. And that's where I think he might have a bit of the mainstream and casual fans not like you. If there's like rankings like private and sergeant and all that stuff, you're definitely not in that level. But I mean, like in those private sectors, if you will, I truly believe that there's a lot of flack on this man for being boring, but I think the striking is only getting better, and that's what we're probably going to see, at least from even a defensive perspective, on UFC 258.
Yeah, man. And honestly, you got to do what you got to do to win. As my boy Vin Diesel said it best. It doesn't matter if you win the race by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning, right? So nothing taken away from Mr. Kamaru Usman, dude.
This man just said Kamaru Usman, or did you say Kamaru Usman?
Yo. What? Say it again.
You said Kamaru Usman or
They
Kamaru
need to hear that one. They need to hear that one. Ask you again.
Kamaru Usman or Kamaru Usman? I killed the full. I killed the vocals. We had to restart. Man, I really heard my last.
You know that's what I'm calling him from now on. Like, there's no doubt.
It's funny because I truly heard my last name, and then you said Usman. I was like, oh, he's definitely not talking to me.
Well, that
Let's go.
Wraps up UFC 258, headlined by Kamaru Usman. Oh man, that was a true treat. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button if you haven't already done so. Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff is down there. Give us a follow. Pics will be on there. Always a treat with you, Mr. Sukumar.
My man, Mr. Paisan.
We'll see you guys soon, man.
Peace.